Hi, today we are in Madrid with Gigas. Diego, who are you and what do you do?
Hi, I'm one of the co-founders of Gigas that we started in 2011. Just to start with a bit of background from myself and the team as well. So we started. We're five founders that started the company, and all of us coming from telecoms and internet. So a background really of both multinationals, big multinationals, and startups. So we've been the rest of the team. I'm the only one that actually didn't go through ya.com, but the rest of the team comes from ya.com, which was at the time the largest portal in Spanish-speaking world, and also the second largest ISP in Spain. So it was started in 1999, and it was extremely successful, and actually less than 2 years later it was sold to T-Online, to Deutsche Telekom. So it was one of the big successes, if not the largest in the internet in Spain. So our president was the CEO there that led the sale, and our CTO is the CTO, and actually all the technical guys, all the system administrators and the stuff come from there, which is a great background because obviously they were managing there like 500 servers, huge amount of traffic, high availability, and that's really what you want out of a hosting company. Myself, mostly telecom, so I was in Telecable, which was one of the first cable ISPs here in Spain, and a very successful one. And I was actually the first employee of the company, because it was a company set up by the electrical company, so they put three of their guys and then hire a young trainee, and that was me, so that was a great experience. And then I've been also in other telecom companies like O2, where I was heading the strategy, both business and technology, so quite interesting as well. And then also in smaller companies, in startups like Phone, the Wi-Fi company, and also my last role was the CEO of an IT managed services company that was a Spanish company, and I expanded into the States and Brazil, Mexico, Latin America quite successfully. So quite relevant for what I'm doing now. And also I think the background in telecoms is quite important, because historically hosting has come from more like the computer guys, and I think telecoms and software have different views of what the world, and telecoms really understand what 5 nines are, for example, in terms of high availability and things like that. Whereas in the software industry, well, if something goes wrong, you just reboot the machine and get solved. So I think that's very good as well. Basically, what we do is cloud hosting, what is called cloud hosting, or infrastructure as a service, which is basically the technical jargon for like renting servers in the cloud, right? So instead of buying your equipment, you just go to our website or through one of our sales channels and get a set amount of computing resources and storage and etc., and you set up your servers and your infrastructure. So obviously it has been a change of paradigm in terms of providing IT services, and I remember only a few years ago, and I'm talking about 4 or 5 years ago, and you will have to buy hardware and always oversizes just in case for the peaks and stuff, and it's quite interesting. I mean, the sector has evolved so much, and now we're able to do, for example, we just launched a really cool feature that we call teletransportation, and it's actually quite unique in the world. No other provider has it yet, and we can move a virtual machine from Madrid to Miami, where we have both. We have 2 data centers. We can move the machine without rebooting the machine and without changing the IP address. Oh, wow. So it's really cool. Like, you have one machine serving traffic in Madrid, and 2 seconds later you have it serving traffic in Miami. So it's like a really teletransportation.
This is also beneficial for the client because the speed load or the loading speed of the website improves.
Exactly. So I mean, and this is what we've done so far was always to listen to our customers and see what they really needed.
Yeah.
So obviously we can't compete with the large multinationals and the large hosters that have tons of engineers developing new products every day and stuff. But we really focus on things that people, our customers demand, and etc. So we have some of our large customers have a lot of traffic in both sides of the Atlantic. But what do they do to exactly be closer to their end customer, to replicate the infrastructure? So they have, imagine, 10 front-end servers here in Spain serving traffic and other 10 in America.
Okay.
And during the day, the ones in Europe or during the European day, they're really busy, and the ones in America completely doing nothing. And then at night time, it's the opposite. So these we developed it with two use cases in mind. First of all, for contingency, for business continuity. So if something happens here, then you can move your infrastructure there. But also for a feature that we call follow the sun. So in this scenario that I was telling you, replicating infrastructure, that type of customer, what they have now is 10 servers in Spain and 1 or 2 in America during the day. So you have these ones that are really busy, and then a couple there for the night owls that are looking at the website in the middle of the night. And then when the sun starts coming down and the traffic patterns start to change, then you start moving machines. So suddenly instead of 10 plus 2, you have a 9 plus 3, 8 plus 4, and then 12 hours later you reverse the situation, and you do that twice a day. And basically what you get at the end of the day is that you've saved almost 50% of your costs.
That's right. I understood that you are trying to develop some software in order to utilize your service much better, more efficiently, and thereby either increasing your margins or lowering your price to the customers. What is the major difference between your product offering and, for example, product offering of Amazon?
I think that there's two questions there. One about the software and the infrastructure, the hardware, but starting with the second one in terms of our competitive advantage or the difference with other large providers. One of the most important things, or actually the key, I think, has been our customer support and our local element, what I call being a local company, we are trying to be a global company, and actually we have offices already in five countries and opening a 6th this month, but by being local. And this is quite important, and I remember when I started the company and we started looking for funding, some investors said to me, "You're absolutely crazy. Don't go into this game. This is a game for the big ones. You have nothing to do." And I always defended that there's a very strong local element to this type of services. And I think time has proved us right. I mean, 3,000 customers later, and with the growth in revenues and being the leader in the cloud hosting space in Spain, has proved that we were right, because at the end of the day, the type of services that we offer are absolutely critical for our customers. I mean, it's not like 4 years ago or 10 years ago that you would put a website the same as you would leave a brochure somewhere, and if it was down a couple of days, doesn't matter. And now some of our customers, it's their whole life. All their business is online. So obviously they can't be down, not even 1 second on some of them, right? So the fact that you have a local company that you can talk on the phone with someone in Spanish, which is quite important. I mean, you mentioned Amazon Web Services, their support is in English and by email. So both are big barriers for the Spanish-speaking countries. One, because we're terrible at languages, unfortunately. So people want to talk in Spanish and want to be able to communicate in Spanish. and also we like to talk. So people don't like sending emails and waiting for a reply. And to be honest, for a service that is mission critical, that is maybe for something that is a development environment is okay, but for something that is really critical, to send an email and wait for a reply when it's down, it's not acceptable. So we started with a really good customer care, obviously with local telephone support in all the countries we are, in Spanish, in English as well. We have bilingual staff, but obviously the important part is Spanish, and also manned by engineers. So we only have engineers and system administrators. So our first level of support is the equivalent to a second or even third level of another provider or a telco, things like that. So that has been for us the best marketing, the best customer acquisition tool. And actually still today, more than 35% of new customers every month come referred by existing customers.
Oh wow. So I understood that the customer service is quite a important point for getting a competitive advantage. Is there anything special about your product that is different from, let's say, Amazon Web Services or other hosting or cloud hosting providers that generates, from your perspective, competitive advantage?
Yeah, obviously customer service is really, really important, but you need to have a good product, because at the end that's the most important thing, right? So we've always done two things. So focus on the quality product. So we're not the cheapest in the market, but we offer very good quality services, and people realize and talk about it. But also we've taken different approach in many areas, a different approach, and I think that's actually worked quite well. And as I was saying, we launched with what we thought it was the very minimum, and have been growing functionality, listening to our customers. So just to give you some examples of things that we do differently, and I think there's two main differences, especially with the large multinationals. One is the almost a philosophical approach that we've taken, right? And that's getting a competitive advantage from a usability point of view and customer experience. At the beginning, when we set up the company, our target were the SMEs. We thought that the big companies they were already sorted, they had their technology needs sorted and stuff, so we wanted to offer this type of technology and the benefits to smaller companies. And therefore we spent a lot of time and effort in the control panel, the user interface, the usability, the customer experience. And actually then, to our surprise, we started receiving calls by very large companies that they were interested in the service. And it has happened that we designed for non-techies, actually the techies now are loving it. So we try to make things extremely easy from a user point of view, from a usability and user experience, and also from a cost experience.
And the cool thing about that is that even though you have invested a lot of money into in a good customer service, you still, I would assume, get less calls because the people don't have problems, or at least they can solve and understand them by themselves.
Exactly. And there's no learning curve or anything. So normally in this type of business, when you acquire a customer, you have a very intensive 30 days or more, 4 or 6 weeks period where you have a lot of interactions. With us, it doesn't really happen like that, because people are like, they can do everything, and it's very, very intuitive. So that has, we didn't plan it that way, but it has become a competitive advantage.
Let's talk briefly about the market development in the Spanish-speaking world in terms of hosting, cloud hosting. Can you tell us, for example, some kind of market segments, how they developed in terms of sales, growth rates, profitability, and what would be your guess for the future?
Yeah, I mean the hosting market in general in the Spanish-speaking markets, it's much less developed than, say, for example, the UK market, which is the largest market in Europe, or Germany, that is the second largest. So there has been, and this is quite similar both in Spain and in Latin America. Historically, people have had their own infrastructure in-house. Mm-hmm. So it's what we normally call hosting in the closet, because it's normally like a small closet that you have in the office, and you have your machines there. So it hasn't had as much development as in other countries, or obviously the States, that is the largest market in the world for this type of services. And then what that provoked is that actually the market is extremely fragmented. Mm-hmm. So for example, here in Spain there's about 2,000 hosting companies. Okay. And the market would be around 600 million euros per year, and the largest one has revenues of 40 million euros. Okay. So that gives you an idea. Yeah. There's like a couple companies that are larger, like with 30, 40, and then all the rest are below 10. Yeah. So it's extremely fragmented market. In South America, it's even more fragmented. Okay. So it's a very fragmented market with companies, traditional hosting companies. So they've been first very focused on share hosting, which is how they started. So you buy a physical machine and you try to squeeze in a few thousand customers there. Yeah. Then they moved to dedicated hosting. So you have your own physical machine, and that was what gave the growth in Spain for the last good few years. And when we started in the market, we were almost the first one offering cloud hosting services as a local provider. And for the rest was difficult to follow us, because the big ones, the large ones, were worried about cannibalizing their own dedicated server base, and the small one couldn't really afford to invest in infrastructure, because the cloud infrastructure is quite different to the normal, to the dedicated servers or the shared hosting, and then you need all the platform and stuff that requires a lot of development effort. Yeah. So in that sense, I mean, we launched and we were quite successful, and what we see is that a lot of the dedicated servers and are decreasing, and that space is being taken by virtual private servers, VPS, on the low side, and then on the medium market and the corporates for what we call cloud services, cloud data center. So in terms of the market, just to give some size, I talked about the size in the Spanish market as a whole hosting being 600 million. The part of cloud hosting we estimate to be like 120 million. Mm-hmm. There's very limited information in this the size of the market, especially in Spain, in Latin America and in Spain. But the analysts, I mean, even the most conservative ones, they estimate that in the regions we operate, so let's say the Spanish-speaking markets, Spain and Spanish Latin America, it would be about $350 million, $400 million at the moment, and growing in the next 3 years, so to end 2016 with $1.2 billion. So the growth rates are phenomenal. I mean, we're seeing it in the market. In Spain, we estimate that it's growing at 40% in the last couple of years. In Latin America, over 50% in most of the markets we're in. And our experience, we're growing in terms of revenues, double digit every month after month. So it's a very, very healthy growth.
Okay, thanks. Diego, we always try to tell our readers about some unique experience from entrepreneurs, and as we are here today in Madrid, we would like to talk about the impact that the financial crisis had on you as a startup, and maybe in general on the ecosystem in Spain.
Okay. Well, I think started from our own experience. I mean, we didn't set up the company because there was a crisis, or we didn't think about not setting it up because there was a crisis. We saw a business opportunity from the other side. We were very good customers of large hosters. We couldn't get cloud hosting services in Spain, and we couldn't get it in Spanish. So we thought there was a gap in the market, and we decided to go for it. And this was like the worst time of the crisis. I mean, when we were looking for funding, it was like the spring of 2011 when Spain was at the verge of being intervened. So it was very difficult. And we actually talked to investors abroad, and they were saying, "Are you crazy? We're not putting any money in Spain." And I remember one actually that said, "If you were in Germany, I would invest." And I said, "Okay, well, unfortunately we were not, and probably if we were in Germany, it wouldn't work because there's strong players there. The market opportunity is here." But it was challenging in that respect. I mean, getting the funding, because of we're very capital intensive, and we have to invest a lot of in infrastructure, in customer service 24/7, etc. We needed quite a bit of money for Spanish standards, so it was challenging. But then it has helped us a lot, because together with the crisis, we had the worst credit crunch that has been in Spanish history. So as I said, historically, companies like to buy the equipment and have it there in front of them and see the lights and control it. And suddenly they went to the manufacturers, HP. "Oh no, I can't finance you." You know, like vendor finance was gone. They went to their banks. "Oh, I need a renting." "Oh no, we can't give it to you unless you put the money here in a deposit." And I said, "Well, then I would buy it if I had the money in the cash." So people suddenly couldn't buy machines, or they couldn't finance them. Okay, and a lot of companies, they didn't have the cash to invest. So some customers came to us almost like a financing company. And I remember, for example, a customer saying to us, "Diego, what I would really like is to buy the equipment and have it at home, but I can't, so I'll get it from you guys." And then they start seeing the technical advantages, and now they're getting more and more, and they say, "This is great because I have the advantages of having it in-house, because I have full control over the control panel, with the advantages of you guys taking care of all the infrastructure and stuff." For the ecosystem, I think it has been quite good. I mean, obviously it's a drama. There's a lot of people. Unemployment rates here are absolutely incredible, especially with the young people. But one of the good things out of it has been that people are starting to change their mentality. And Spain, historically, we've been a country of entrepreneurs. I mean, we traveled the world discovering places and stuff, and we've always been very venturous in that sense. And if I look back, for example, even in my own family, generation back, every single person had their own business, be it a small coffee shop or an architecture office or whatever it was, but they were working for themselves. Whereas in the last 40, 50 years, it was quite the opposite. The best thing that could happen to you would be to work in a large company in Spain or for the government for your whole life. Work 40 years and stuff. So that was the mentality only still 3 years ago. And I think with the crisis, people started seeing that, first of all, those jobs are not as safe as they thought. Unfortunately, almost every single large company in Spain let people go. So they realized, "Oh, this is not a job for life." And people have some because of conviction, and some unfortunately because of the situation they had. But they starting their own thing and their companies. So there has been a boom in terms of entrepreneurship. And also in the last 2-3 years, the money, the VC industry in Spain historically has been very, very small. And in the last 3 years, the money available is more than triple. So there's new funds, larger funds, so there's a lot more money available for entrepreneurs. So that's always a good thing. And I think what we need now is to close the circle, is to have a good few exits that could encourage entrepreneurs to start their companies, and also investors to put the money, and then you close the circle and things start working.
Diego, thank you very much.
And it's been a pleasure. Thank you for inviting myself and Gigas to talk to you.
Yeah, and if you're looking for a nice cloud hosting company, check out Gigas. Thanks.
Thank you.
Diego.
Marty.